Three of us are standing there in front just about the time the thing is about to start, and we're told that they pulled the vote and that it was going to be discussion only, testimony and discussion only. And I said, you know what? It's disrespectful to me and to the people I represent and to the people I'm here to advocate for. Honestly, what does it have to do with a Jewish mother walking her kids on Shabbat to a friend's house and then being stopped and harassed and called a baby killer or a genocidal lunatic?
We are here, Elizabeth, with a very, very special guest, Jason Shamus, who is the CEO of the JFNNJ, Jewish Federation of Northern New Jersey. Wow, that is a word salad. Jason has been in the position a long time. How long?
I'm in my 15th year, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. And Jason and I had breakfast a few weeks ago, and I think I realized we have to invite him on. It's beyond time. The goal of this podcast is to really bring in local leaders, newsmakers, and I just said we got to do it.
And you're sure I fit the bill for both?
I would hope so. And I was also really impressed, and we'll segue right into it. But Jason, you've taken a real active role, more than I even knew. In terms of what's going on in the state assembly. And I'm going to kind of give the floor over to you. Just tell us about the last few months, last year, obviously post October 7th. Let's hear the Jason Shamus post October 7th in a nutshell. So,
well, thank you. But I think it's like more than recent. And like you said, there's a lot that's been going on behind the scenes.
Yep.
And we've been influential in the construction of the bill, working with Gary Sher, who's the prime sponsor of the bill, and some of the others, movers and shakers, both on the Senate side and the Assembly side, to get this going. This started for us when I got here 15 years ago, really. There was an incident in Paramus that people know about with the firebombing of synagogues, right? And there was a rabbi whose home in Rutherford had a Molotov cocktail thrown into the house. And I realized right away that the landscape for the local Jewish community was starting to change. It was a landmark.
Wait, that first year you were here, really?
I started July 1, which meant I really started months before that with people calling me while I was still living in D.C. But I arrived July 1, and this happened, I think, January 11th, 14th, something like that. And I very quickly became familiar with the legal code, law enforcement, things like that in northern New Jersey, or really in New Jersey. We just happen to live in northern New Jersey. And I recognized that we needed to change the way we were doing our communal work. And a part of that was working much more closely with law enforcement and elected officials on policies that would protect us. But the biggest thing for me was building those relationships. I want to be able to pick up the phone and call the Attorney General, the governor, the Congress members, the state assembly. And thankfully, we've built it out. When I got here, there was one or two people working on that. And now we've had to upload our infrastructure to meet that demand. And we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say 6 plus Jason. And it's how I'm spending a good bulk of my day. And it's backed up by data. When we surveyed the community in between COVID and October 7th, we found out that the number one thing that all Jews cared about was anti-Semitism and safety. And it didn't matter where you lived. It didn't matter how you practiced. It didn't matter how old you were. It didn't matter how you identified gender-wise either. So we have been engaged in this, and it's why I've given testimony in Trenton so many times I can't even keep track. And it started with the anti-BDS legislation. And lo and behold, a couple of years ago, Ben & Jerry's goes off the rails. And what do? We send a letter to the Treasury Department in Trenton. They do the investigation, and they pull the pension funds that are invested in Unilever out, right? So we're seeing positive results of it, even if the street isn't comfortable. There are consequences for the action. And that's what leads us to the IHRA definition, right? Because the IHRA definition is the best universally accepted tool for defining the difference between, let's say, a regular crime and a hate crime that specifically targets us because we're Jews. And that's where we've unloaded an enormous amount of energy and resources and community capital that we have.
And this isn't just you, Jason. This is you along with every other federation leadership across New Jersey.
Yeah, look, I've been the face of it, and I'm sure we're going to talk about how that came about. It was never the intent. It's just a matter of the fact that I've been laser focused on it and the longest at it, but it's a communal effort. I don't take all the credit. I just take the credit for being the guy who stands in front of the mic and sort of lowers the boom in that respect. But to get to that point is 95% of the work. We have leadership in the community from all walks of the Jewish community, partners in the non-Jewish community, and it is all over the state. This does not happen because one person from New Jersey, hops on a bandwagon and uses his soapbox to advocate.
Mm-hmm. It was just really rough to watch the testimony last week. It was as you know, you were there, 8 hours long, and half and half, probably evenly divided between advocates for the definition and advocates against the definition. And it's almost like we knew that we had convinced the members sitting on the dais, like the assembly members watched hate in action. They watched people talking about Gaza and then about Jews in the same sentence, and not making that distinction between what is acceptable political speech and what is directed toward an individual sitting here in this chair, who is just being Jewish, wearing a kippah or something. So we saw it, but we wanted to know more about the backstory of how all those hundreds of people that you guys, it wasn't just you, BCG, Jack was there, the Stand With Us was there, ADL was there, but how did all these people really get to that spot? And I know there was also a day when the bill was pulled. So how did that happen? What happened there too?
Yeah.
All right. So we have built a coalition for IHRA across the state that includes as many organizations as humanly possible, right? Mm-hmm. So we partnered with the OU, the rabbinical movements, all the organizations you've mentioned. The Israel American Council has been a partner with us. Local service providers have been a partner with us. You've mentioned the big ones, Stand With Us, ADL, AJC. The idea was to build a coalition to work on it, because even though there's 610,000 plus Jews in the state, each one of us has a limited range, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to do one of the things that I learned from Einat Wolf from Israel is to be singular on message.
Yeah.
Right. The reason why
we quote that all the time.
I talk about Einat Wolf once a week.
And you should.
She knows what anti-Semitism is. And now she even said, once you see it explained to you, you see it everywhere. You see the whole thing is about blood libel at the end of the day.
Right. But her main point is they have one singular message. Right. And Jews do not.
Right.
We've been in this country for a long time. For the most part, we've gotten over almost every hurdle. Of course, anti-Semitism is prevalent, but at the end of the day, Jews have been accepted into American society. Yeah. We've been successful. We've bifurcated and assimilated in a way that allows us to maintain our customs and traditions, but at the same time, we see ourselves as American. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, with that comes the sort of falling off of the singular message, whereas the Palestinian Muslim crowd that's opposed to this is singularly on point. So we have to make sure that we're inclusive of everyone in the state and their perspectives on this, because I am certain of a couple of things now. Things that unite us are anti-Semitism and, for the most part, supporting Israel. We may support Israel differently within our communities, but at the end of the day, of the 610,000 Jews, 609,000 would be absolutely devastated if it ceased to exist. So we can coalesce around those issues. We can build coalitions around those issues. And it doesn't matter how you practice or what your political views are. Those things are a core testament to who and what we are. And so the coalition is built on the basis and backbone of that. And that is why you see a wide range of people at this. And I like that it presents Jewish unity. I like that kippah wearing Jews are there without kippah wearing Jews, and so on and so forth, because it represents who we are in New Jersey. And the legislators have to see it. That's why it's been such a struggle, is because they're seeing the elected officials are seeing the singular message and the strength and unity from the opposition, and we've ebbed and flowed. And we have been assured behind closed doors. Quite frankly, I cannot tell you how many private meetings I've had with sponsors and legislators about this. And then we go into the room, and you saw what happened June 23rd.
Yeah. Tell not everyone knows exactly what happened June 23rd. I know you had a big role in it. So
look, we had laid all the groundwork, at least we thought we did, for a successful committee vote, which would then propel it to the assembly. I was a little concerned on the onset because the chair of that committee, and I forget the name of it, was something women's rights and something else, was chaired by Shavonda Sumter from Patterson, who, even though she's a sponsor of the IHRA bill, has not necessarily been a friend of the Jewish community. She is a skeptic, to say the least. She lives and works in the Patterson area, which means she's connected to that perspective. But behind the scenes, we were told this was going to go through. And now the meeting was on a Monday, I believe, right? So you go into the weekend and Shabbat thinking, okay, things are on schedule. We're going to make the case. We were told by key members of the assembly that we didn't need to flood the room or anything else with Jews, that we were in good shape. And I'm sitting there with Gary Scher, who I said is the main sponsor, and an assemblyman, and Rosie Begoli, who's a co-sponsor, and some others. And the three of us are standing there in front just about the time the thing is about to start. And we're told that they pulled the vote and that it was going to be discussion only, testimony and discussion only. So immediately my blood pressure and core body temperature shoot. Like you can only imagine. Like I'm a Zionist to the core. I'm a proud Zionist. I believe in Jewish rights across the board. I don't really care how people identify and practice. What I care about is if you feel you're Jewish, you are treated equitably and you are a part of our Kehillah and family. And this offends me to the core. And Rosie and Gary too. But Rosie and Gary are in a difficult position. They're members of the assembly. One, Rosie was asked to substitute on the committee that day and was not really aware that they were moving it from vote to discussion. And so they start to go through the rigmarole or in the procedure of show and tell. And I had my speech ready, which was the normal canned, we Jews need because we are, and blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't overly thrilled with doing the standard, but I was told this thing was kind of in the bag. And okay, Jason, don't make waves. Don't make it difficult. Don't do the Jason shtick. Go through the...
Really?
Well, we'll talk about the Jason shtick
but you didn't do it.
I didn't do it because I didn't realize then what I know now about how many people listen to those things, how many people follow those things. I simply got called up to the dais, and as I'm sitting there, I had this level of disgust run through me about what had been done, and I was not going to take it. I didn't care look, I wanted to be respectful. I knew that I had to control my true rage and anger because believe me, I was like off the chart.
But what was the reasoning for it being
to this day
moved from vote to discussion?
To this day, no one's fessing up to it. I've asked.
It was taken up by a different committee, by the local and state government committee.
But that was a couple of weeks later. Right. So that's correct.
So they basically said maybe this isn't, in best case scenario, maybe this is too complicated for our committee to manage.
We weren't even given that explanation. We were just told it was pulled as a vote. No one explained to us anything. Even Gary and Rosie didn't know what was going on.
Wow.
And so when I say this was not like a planned publicity stunt on my part, it was literally a visceral reaction I had 5 minutes before a hearing. And I said, you know what? It's disrespectful to me and to the people I represent and to the people I'm here to advocate for. And yeah, I said, that's it. And the Jews, whatever, there were 40 something of us in this room. We were clearly outnumbered that day, 3 or 4 to 1. We picked up and we walked out. Statement made. That was it. And because of that, the assembly president, Craig Coughlin, called me a couple of days later. I was in Washington, D.C. lobbying on national efforts. We had met with Cory Booker's office. We had met with Josh Gottheimer's office. I had stopped by at Nellie Poe's office. We were in Mikey Sherrill's office doing the federal thing. And I'm in the basement of one of the Senate buildings, and I get a call, and it's Speaker Coughlin. And, he says the right things, and he sort of apologizes. But he was very focused on the fact that I said I was disrespected and the Jews around the state were disrespected because this is a democratic process and whatever. And I did. I put him on the spot and I said to him, well, who made this decision? And I got the political answer. Well, that's not important. This is where we are, right? So I realized I was never wholly going to get to the bottom. I have a couple of random theories on it, but just speculative. It's not fact. So I had this very good, positive conversation with him, but I really used the moment to unload on the things that I want to say. Right? I really wanted to point out that the few Jews who seem to be advocating on behalf of CARE do not represent 99% of us, and to stop with this nonsense that the Jewish community is divided, because we are not.
Right.
We are not. If 90+% of the Jewish community feels one way, there's not a real big divide.
Right. That's a message, by the way, we really need to just slam home
People
somehow.
have to keep understanding that.
Yeah.
And that's the work we're trying to do with the Jews for NJ, is to bring people together to understand, like, you have the same concerns, you come from the same bloodline, and there's a value in being together.
Well, but Jews for NJ, I didn't think we'd get to that.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
But Jews for NJ, though, that's not just about Israel. It's more. And then tell us about Jews for NJ. Just and we'll get back to IHRA.
If you want me to diverge, I'm happy to do it. So
Yeah.
Jews for NJ is an effort on our part to say that we are stronger together and that all the Jews need to come together regardless, right? And it came out of an awakening we had on October 7th, 2024 at the JCC, the Kaplan JCC on the Palisades. If you were there, you saw a tent that had over 5,000 people in it. And you looked out and you saw Jews from all walks of life in our catchment area, northern New Jersey. And we had this aha moment that we needed to do something bigger to bring people together for common issues, right? This is about unity, not about division. This is about commonality, not, any sort of breakdown or, differences. And if you were there and you saw a female Reform rabbi sharing a stage with an Orthodox male rabbi,
we were there.
Yeah,
you were there.
Yeah, we were there.
We were both there.
I got a lot of comments about things like that they never thought they would see the day.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Really
so
amazing.
With that, our president, Daniel Herz, basically said his mission and purpose, while he's going to be involved in Federation and he's now chair of the board, is this is it. Bringing people together in Jewish unity is key. To do it, we need to start with a campaign that doesn't say federation, because it's not about that. This is about engagement, participation, unity, and ultimately access to programs and services so that people can engage. That we were going to start looking at this as an effort to see if X% of the Jewish population is engaged in the Jewish community now, can we get that to X squared and track it? And if the Jewish philanthropy in the community right now is X, can we get it to X plus? And to start thinking about it as a community and not to care about individual and specific agencies. But step one is to collect information from people right away so that we know who's out there and where they are. And it's a separate database from Federation's database, right? Like, we get a lot of calls, it seems crazy, about day schools or kosher restaurants or places for senior services or Jewish camps. And we haven't centralized that yet, but those are unifying factors for us. Look, it's a free market economy. You choose to do what's best for you and your family. But at the end of the day, there's one umbrella for this, and that's the Jewish umbrella. So Jews for NJ is our way of saying to everyone, if you join it, you will be a part of something. And when there's a call to action, like going to Trenton or a program or an event, that's what we're there for. On the other hand, if you have a specific interest you want, it's also going to be there for you. And we're looking at it from those three lenses, right? Engagement and participation, access to information, and Jewish unity. That's my Jews for NJ. And I went through a whole process. We used lay people. It wasn't.
And it's like you when you kicked it off around like in the last 2-3 months, I think, correct?
We really kicked it off at our annual meeting, June, let's call it 15th, give or take.
Okay.
We rolled a cute little commercial for it.
And is there going to be an event for it, or is there going to be?
We're working towards something that physically gets people to do something. We're just in the process of doing it. Right. We're using a marketing company that's advising us on each step of the way.
Yeah. Okay. Want to go back? Let's go back to IHRA maybe. No?
Yeah, let's go back to what happened last week then.
Yeah.
With which really was a success
let me finish,
story.
because I was talking about my conversation with Craig Coughlin, the Senate, the Assembly president. So we spent 20-something minutes on the phone, and I think we ended in a place where he said to me, "Jason, I promise you, this is not meant to block what you're trying to do. We're trying to get this forward. I promise you, he literally said to me, I promise you, I'm going to find another committee that can do it.
Okay.
And we're going to do it quickly. And before that, we're going to all meet. And sure enough, about a week before the hearing on July 24th, I went to a very confidential small meeting. Our Jewish Community Relations Committee Chair, Rena Schlessel, and I went down to Livingston, and we met with Assemblyman Coughlin. Cher was there, Lisa Swain was there, Rosie Begoli. So there were 4 of them and their staff, and Rena and I and our lobbyists. And we walked through the mechanics of what the 24th could and should look like. And we realized once again that, one, I knew right away this committee would have a better potential outcome for us. Like, I was optimistic at front when I saw who the chair was and who was on the committee. But I also felt like the walkout and the pressure that came from it, not just from me, but from everyone else, put the elected officials in a position where they knew they had to come to our defense. So it meant, what were we going to do? We were going to market it through the coalition that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. We were going to flood the room differently so that it wasn't 40 Jews being outnumbered by 3-1. And we were going to line up everyone to speak and do what we needed to do to show Jewish unity around this and why. And I was, like I said, I was much more comfortable on the 24th of July than I was on the 23rd of June. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to point out something very funny. Like, the 23rd of June is my bar mitzvah date. The 24th of July is my birthday. I am out of dates now until next June, but I was just very, cautiously optimistic. And a part of it was because I felt like even my own remarks were going to shift from defensive to offensive. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And my mindset changed because of that walkout. And I think that for me, the leadership takeaway was that I have a little bit more influence than I give myself credit for. Right. Like, I tend to be a little bit more, everyone has the Moses complex, and they should, of being humble and all of that. But at the end of the day, if I'm being asked to speak first and I'm being asked to make that opening statement, then I have to assume some responsibility. And I was determined to not go out there and, cry the poor Jews are getting beaten up on the street and harassed and we need it, but rather on the offensive about why we needed it. And you can't stop the opposition from giving testimony legally. Mm-hmm. My sense was, though, that if they were going to keep talking about Gaza, and occasionally Judea and Samaria, mm-hmm. they were going to dig their own sort of ditch in a way, because it would become abundantly clear that they're upset about what's going on Israel, and that their hatred of Jews manifests itself to the local community, and there's a disconnect. And the bill is actually, or the definition, in some ways meant to protect us from being held responsible.
From that very thing.
Correct.
From the word Gaza does not appear in the definition of the IHRA. Like, it just isn't there.
Honestly, what does it have to do with a Jewish mother walking her kids on Shabbat to a friend's house and then being stopped and harassed and called a baby killer or a genocidal lunatic?
Yeah, they have no answer for that.
And that's why I flipped the switch and I said, well, how many times have Jewish mobs showed up in Patterson and Clifton and done the same thing?
Never.
And we won't, because it's not in our nature.
Right.
And that, I think, from the testimony that followed me, that became pretty apparent. Yeah. The other thing I noticed with them, and you heard it from Assemblyman Aziz, who was the only assembly member to speak against the bill versus the 5 who spoke before, his whole "we're against anti-Semitism and we know a better way" is hogwash, because it denies any responsibility and accountability for the action of his people.
And for Jews to define what their definition of anti-Semitism is. We have a right to self-determination. We have a right to decide what's offensive and what isn't.
That's correct.
And
I mean, within reason, we're not being unreasonable here. If IHRA was not accepted anywhere else, if it was controversy, fine. But 30 states, 37 countries, maybe I have that in reverse.
I think we're going to be the 37th state.
37th state.
If 36 states, 47 countries.
Yeah,
So we should be the 37th state.
Yeah, exactly.
Accept this.
And considering we're the 4th largest Jewish population after New York, California, and Florida, it's pathetic.
Yeah. So really, Kol HaKavod, it was really like something to see. I was what I was saying before we went on the air was that I was on audio that day. I couldn't come down to Trenton, and I could not put my phone down. I felt like every speech that went was like it was either a like a stab or a reassurance, But then what was also reassuring was how the committee chair Anthony Farelli handled it this time.
No, Karabinchak.
Was it?
It was Karabinchak.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's Karabinchak is the assemblyman. He's from Edison.
Oh, okay. He did a great job. I thought it was really interesting. Okay, but that's the problem of audio, I guess. But you don't see
it's also like there's so many. And
right.
Yeah.
But it was balanced. It was like he limited speech and he shut it down when the Gaza genocide, talk got too intense. So it was really good.
Yeah, let's be clear. There's no genocide.
I know.
I know. No argument.
Or we're terrible at it.
Right. The population, I read today in the Algemeiner, the population in Gaza has increased from 2023 to 2025. Did you know that?
I did. I'm a little skeptical any more numbers coming out of there. But
right.
This was a CIA number.
So we're skeptical of numbers just being bandied about.
I mean, look, the one thing we know is the Gaza numbers are not being diminished by the day, right? And so, and we see the fraudulent media posts and pictures, and we know that definitely we're outnumbered on social media, and we know that the woke or progressive elements of the media are writing these stories. If you look at CNN stories on Israel, they're all last names or Muslim last names. And then you wonder why we're getting lambasted. But I implore the Jewish community to start paying attention and to start opening up their mouths. Why am I the only one going after Hanana Deli at the Bergen Record?
Right.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Look at her post. Her last 3 posts were all slamming Israel about the airdrop, the false claim about 12 people being killed a couple of months ago, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Call it. Call Gannett. Say you want the ethical committee to look at it.
We've known about her for years at this point.
She targeted us also.
She targeted her.
Of course. But Jews cannot punt on this anymore to the top leadership. Like, I can do some of it, but again, if we're 610,000 strong in a state with 9 million people,
that's a big number.
Something. And we're building coalitions like with the Indian Hindu community and other communities because they have the same concerns we do about hate and whatnot.
Their comments were very welcome and appreciated.
One of my colleagues in Metro West arranged for it. I had reached out to the American Hindu Jewish Congress, which is a new organization we started to work with about it. Wow. Because the anti-hate and the legislation around targeting and things like that are something we universally share. And you can see that the Hindu community and the Jewish community actually live in peace wherever they are.
Yeah.
Right? There's a mutual respect.
For sure.
It's of great value.
It's of great value. But there are other groups, the AAPI, the Korean community.
Have you done it? I was going to ask you, how are you doing with the Asian community, the Korean?
We were doing well coming out of COVID, and I would say it's a little more parve or neutral at the moment. By nature, the AAPI community doesn't want to step in political messes, but they reach out to us. We have people from different communities that do it. One of the biggest challenges we have is finding for federation in a parallel organization in these other communities, right? They're usually based on faith or through a temple or whatever.
Right. There's no federation, you're saying.
There's no overarching. I mean, one of the things that makes federation, and again, back to the Jews for NJ, so unique is it's based on how you define your Jewish identity. It's not based on a religious form of practice in that sense, right? So it's a complement to those things, but these other groups don't necessarily have it. And we simply, as Jews, do not have the resources to tackle the interfaith elements one by one. I would encourage the rabbis and the synagogues in towns to have relationships with the other faith-based organizations in town. That we can manage. But if we don't have a shul or a synagogue in town X and there's a huge Hindu temple, we got to figure it out.
You got to introduce someone to them. Interesting.
Because all this builds back into IHRA and the public policy, right?
Correct. Yeah, all of it. Absolutely.
And so we look at it holistically. That's what made this whole process, whether we failed on the 23rd and succeeded on the 24th, it's how we're going about doing it to not just our own coalition, the external coalition, how we interact with our elected officials, the employees who work for the elected officials, their staffs. This is an enormous lift for all of us. And to your point about behind the scenes, it's every day. I mean, I just met with someone who's extremely well placed in the Democratic Party in the state, just to try and say, like, how can we work together? Because it's bipartisan and we need support.
Yeah, so looking ahead, by the way, so let's talk. So what's next? So do they have any, when's it on the calendar for the full vote?
I don't have it just yet. I have a meeting tomorrow with Zoom with my colleagues and our lobbyists, where they're going to give us the download on where the Assembly and Senate are. The one thing I'm comfortable sharing with the public is to make them aware more than anything else is that the Assembly bill and the Senate bill are not exactly identical. And so we will have to go through some process to rectify it. And it's mostly because the Assembly bill, to get it passed, the speaker, or the president wanted us to clarify some definitions in the original language, which behind the scenes, again, I helped write with one of the lead sponsors of the bill. The Senate side doesn't have that. So we're going to have to reconcile it a little bit, but the core of adopting the definition, that doesn't change. These are just how to.
So basically the two pieces of legislation will have to be flipped and combined.
They're going to have to be one for it to go to the governor's office, right? So if there's three things that need to happen now for a bill to become a law. I love quoting my childhood.
I'm just a bill.
Yeah.
A lonely bill in Trenton. Yeah. The Assembly has to approve it. The Senate has to approve it. The governor has to sign it.
That's it.
So the Assembly passed a bill out of committee that is not the same as the bill that did pass in the Senate. Is that
also
correct?
Senate committee.
Or the Senate didn't pass it yet.
The Senate didn't pass it. It got out of committee. Okay. There's slight deviations, not in the actual definition itself, but in the examples of.
Okay, but we know that this happens. This is like part of.
Yeah, people shouldn't flip out about that. It's just how we do it here. Right.
So, is it going to be a reprise? Is it going to be another scene like this, and like we saw in June, July, and in September, October?
Okay, so two factors now. It's a good question because I've been asked this a couple of times.
I'm also asking as a publisher, like, where can we help? Like, get together? Do we need like 10,000?
I'm not sure yet, because if the Senate and or the Assembly open up the full meeting for testimony, it's going to be a battle again. If they close it for testimony, people will maybe protest outside, in which case we in the Jewish community may elect to participate and show a force, or we may say we don't want to look like clowns and stay away. Generally, if you've seen these pro-Palestinian protests, they're kind of 20, 30 people, and half of them are fake Hasidic Nutric card.
Yeah.
And half of them are paid from whatever.
Torah card is paid too, by the way. So,
yes, they are.
Where do they get their keffiyehs? It's amazing.
It's amazing, right? Yeah. It's amazing. George Soros has done a great job of sowing discord, but I won't know till we get closer, and then we could activate our partners, we can activate our coalition partners, and we can activate the media like you guys to do something. But it's a little too soon for me to say, one, I know, and two, let's do.
Closer is Labor Day, closer is you don't know when, closer is
I just don't know.
Rosh Hashanah time.
I hate to say it, I'll know a little bit more in the next couple of weeks, but I wouldn't want to say something without actually knowing. I'm not hiding anything. I just legitimately don't know yet. I just know what the steps are. I don't know when and how.
And that leads us to another good question of how we can get younger people involved with this process, because it is a hairy, weird, unpredictable kind of process. But how could we get kids involved kind of at a younger age and like get them excited about this process, and not be like, age 50 and be like, oh my God, how many more times are we going to have to go to Trenton? Yeah. There's no parking there.
I feel a little insulted as a 55-year-old.
Oh, sorry. Right no, but like,
we include
I want the energy of youth to combine with your passion and your knowledge and your ability to bring people together.
Look,
how could we help you get kids involved?
It's a good point. Look, we have to get the parents of the kids in high school to get their kids, whether you go to, and here, of course, in northern New Jersey, 40% of our kids go to formal Jewish education, right? It's pretty significant. But we have now invested as federation in something called the Jewish Student Union, which is kind of like the Jewish social club, and I wouldn't say social, the Jewish Hillel in high school. Social is not the right word.
Teaneck High School has a nice one.
We have a nice one, but they're all over. I mean, we're in the Pascagoula Valley School District now. We're in Northern Valley School District where my kids went to Demarest. It wasn't there when my daughter graduated last year, and it's there now. We have to get those groups involved. We have to ask the youth groups to start upping the ante on these types of things. And we have to make a general push, but it's going to come from donors, from community leaders, from community influencers.
Right.
Maybe what I would say to you is like a good story about why they need to get involved first to make the case is the way to go. And a part of the case is something we were talking about before we went live about the next generation of Jews understanding that being involved in civic government and leadership is critical to our survival.
Yeah. My daughter this past spring went as an 8th grader to Washington to advocate with AIPAC. She was part of a program called the Israel Advocacy Clubs in the day schools, sponsored by, I think, CIJE. They decided to do that this year. It was the first time they did it. And I think 80 kids from Bergen County went down to Washington.
So how great is that?
It was amazing.
We need more and more and more. And we should be putting pressure on people like myself and our donors and our boards to do it. We're aware of it. We're working on it. But it's like we need people on the street, the power of the people. Now I sound like I'm from the 70s, but I don't mean it that way.
No, but it's true. Like there is this power of youth that needs to be directed in these really important ways. It's and doing this early is really so beneficial.
So let's write the story. Let's do the coverage because it's
100%.
true.
Yeah.
It's like a 60-minute expose here.
Yeah. I'll just say something. Elizabeth and I have spoken about this, but we grew up in the non-Orthodox world, and I was really raised in the Torah U'Mata world. Like I could be president. The goal was to be best in the Torah world and best in the meaning. Aim for be president, aim to be the best in the Torah side. And I think you also had a little flavor of that. Also, I think I know you went to Ramaz, so
I went to SAR.
Sorry. You look down at Ramaz. Okay, got it.
Well, I did go to Ramaz for 1 year too, but I graduated in SAR in the infamous class of 84. I grew up in both worlds. Like I grew up in the school year. I did SAR, I did B'nai Akiva and things like that. And I had that indoctrination. Then in the summer, I did the Young Judaic camps in Hadassah, and I got the liberal Zionist indoctrination.
So you're a product of both, by the way.
Jason, from the West Coast.
You're a product of both. That's really cool.
I had Camp Ramah, Habonim Dror for me in the summers. I'm not even kidding.
So it's similar. But look, I still, at the end of the day, regardless of the practice and the ideology, Israel is a core fundamental tenement of the whole thing. I'm a product of the Holocaust, and I know that without a strong Israel, we're in trouble. But I also know that we need to have more than just a strong base in Israel. The Jews need another power base somewhere else on the planet. Right now, it's America, and our ability to advocate, regardless of who's in power, is critical to keeping that balance for us. And you see what's going on now.
Yeah.
Going back to the original thing, I think our schools and our public schools do an incredible job of educating our kids. I think the value in the home about kids getting involved in civic issues is where it's died off the vine. I think we have a responsibility on that to sort of educate these, younger kids who are in middle school now and elementary school, right? And part of it is social media has wrecked how we viewed our politics. The media has exposed politicians for being human, and somehow that has a negative, deflating morale. And they're human.
Yeah,
they've always been human.
They've always been human, but now, in the good old days, it was basically just Kennedy who was exposed. Ever since Clinton,
everybody. Yeah, and you have to have,
and you have to put your family out there, and
you have to have sort of this ironclad ego in order to deflect criticism from all sides all day and all night.
It's brutal. Think about the Clinton-Trump debate where you had Hillary and then Trump's kid sitting there, and the entire thing was about how Hillary handled Bill and how Trump's family handles the accusations against him. And I'm saying to myself, no, you have to make this about American policy, but we still have to encourage our community to get more involved in this. If you look at the trend of who's getting involved in politics and who's getting elected, where are the reasonable center Jews? Where are we?
Where are the Shapiros? Where are the Gottheimers? Next generation.
Who's going to follow Tracy? Who's going to follow Josh? Right? Look what's going on in New York.
Yeah. Yes. Look what's going on there.
Yeah.
I actually want to switch to your job, by the way, Jason. I love your job, but I actually think...
Do you?
I don't want it. Don't worry. I don't want it. What I'm saying is I'm someone who's been studying federations for a long time. What you're doing, it seems like you shifted the mindset for what a CEO of federation is doing. Meaning I know that you're.
Should I say thank you? But how so?
Meaning I don't remember federation CEOs being that always as involved on the lobbying legislation. It was a part of what you did, but it seems like it's almost been like 60-70% of your.
We've known you for I've worked at the Jewish Link for 10 years. I think I've known you at least as long as I've been here. And you go to work every day like a quarterback. You're like, okay, what are we doing today? And you bring all your energy to it. And I don't think the nonprofit CEO is usually that kind of person. So it's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's great to watch. We're lucky.
We're not accusing you of losing touch with your programs. That's all. Yeah.
Please don't go to, JF North America because New Jersey still needs you. But really, I mean.
Yeah. All right. One, thank you. I don't know how to really answer this other than to say I never by nature want to be status quo. And the guy who hired me, Alan Sharstein, who was president in 2009, 10, and 11, he once said to me, he's a Wharton guy. He's really smart. He says, Jason, a status quo organization, whether for-profit or not-for-profit, is a dying organization. Mm. And it stuck with me. I mean, by nature, I was never status quo. Right. I mean, do I have a day here or there where I'm like, I need to take a deep breath and
work on the blood pressure?
Yeah. But on the whole, no. Look, Federation was not in a great spot when I got here. I recognized that the culture needed to change and we needed to adapt. I came here in 2011 and I inherited an organization that to me was still operating on the 1970, 1980 model. Right. And I didn't want that. I pray that this gets all worked out and I can shift my focus to something else. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to respond to wherever there are Jewish needs. Federation is going to respond to wherever Jewish needs. We do not absolve ourselves from our two core tenements of social welfare and Jewish continuity. How we may do it may manifest differently, like what we just spoke about. But those two things don't go away. This new security pillar has just become so big because of what's going on. Yeah. And quite frankly, when you ask Jews on the street, and I tell this story all the time, I used to solicit for dollars and I would sit down and have to explain, well, the cost of kosher meals is going up. We had 80,000 people who needed 80,000 meals last year. This year we're going up to 95,000. I need X. People look at me right now and go, Jason, I get it. I'm good. Here's my money. Take it. Go feed people. But this is what I want to talk about. Mm-hmm. And so we change and we morph and we adapt. And the other thing for me about Federation is we're inclusive. I'm not buying into this. I live here, I practice here, and I'm this. I don't want to hear it. Yeah. I'm sorry. I am very happy to like that. That's how you feel. But there also needs to be a central place for all of us. And if not Federation, there is none. Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, every time I go and I visit an Orthodox institution or I do a secular thing, I don't feel any differently about it. Yeah. I just don't. At the end of the day, our enemies don't care. We shouldn't care. Yeah. So thank you for your kind words, but I believe in what I'm doing. I want to manage it like it's a business. I want to be effective and efficient where I could be. I wish more people would help us boost our revenue instead of growing, and we do grow. Thank God. So thank you to anyone listening to this who helps. It makes a difference, but I would like to see more people do it.
Your campaign has grown tremendously. Since you started, the campaign's quadrupled? I don't know. No.
I mean, the way to look at the numbers is the total dollars that we have brought in. So we've gone from really on an annual basis of about 11 million, and now depending on what happens with endowments, we're anywhere in the 20 plus million range. Last 2 years we were at 28 and 30 million.
That's not a status quo organization,
Not
Jason.
a status quo.
But also,
and our assets under management
amazing.
have gone from like 30 million in 15 years to now we're over 100.
Wow.
But also, tzedakah begins at home. And I know as people are coming back from their summer vacations and reading the paper and watching this podcast, they're going to be thinking, what should I start funding? What should I give for Rosh Hashanah? And Federation, especially Jews for New Jersey, and the advocacy efforts that you guys have been doing is tzedakah at home. I really feel that way. Like it's an important thing, like point to make.
Thank you.
That it's part of who our community is and part of what we need right now, I think.
I agree. So I always explain, like the campaign, people used to think, right, when you talk about the good old days Federation, what's Federation do? It raises money. And that kind of got to me. It's not, when again, Federation builds Jewish community. We need money to do that.
Yeah.
And people, look, we have opened up how people can do that. If you're interested, if you want to fund this Jewish civic engagement program, come talk to me, right? Like we'll do it. I mean, if it's good for the Jewish people and it's needed and someone wants to direct it that way, Guy Gazent, let's do it.
Yeah. Amazing.
You never did anything like that? That's new, right? I thought there was something.
We've been building it out over years. Like,
I thought there was stuff that the Federation was doing for youngers for college. I thought there was.
We do.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, we do. But civic leadership is a little bit different than college prep programming.
Right?
Your idea, I think maybe we didn't say it on the air, but an idea maybe of actually training future leaders.
Correct.
Yeah.
For specifically for civic, not just for Jewish. What we do now is a lot of Jewish leadership training, right? The Berry Foundation, one of our biggest partners and funders, just brought in the Wexner program, which is specifically Jewish leadership and training. What I'm talking about for the kids is to help them get the tools so that they can do it in a societal way, not just a Jewish communal way, right? Because I'm telling you, I am alarmed by the lack of Jewish elected officials, and the trend for us has not been good. And then you get stuck with the dinosaurs like Bernie Sanders, who's like, I don't have to say more because everyone on the call just unfortunately threw up their breakfast or lunch, depending on what time it is. But
that's funny.
No, it's
we know Bernie.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Thanks for all you do, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast. If you would like to participate or be in touch with us in any way, please email us at editor@jewishlink.news and follow us and find our podcast wherever you find podcasts.